I'd like to announce that prior to this meeting, we had an executive session to discuss personnel issues. Okay, at this time we would take public comment, and we have on the agenda Mike Irwin, who is president of the Penn State Advisory Board, as well as Tom Smith, who's a member of the board. So Mike, Tom, Reynolds.
Actually, I'm the chairman and Tom's the vice chairman.
Oh, okay.
So that's the reason I took the honor of going first. So I didn't.
That's fine.
I'll let Tom wrap it up when I'm finished. So all the mistakes I make, Tom, you can cover me for.
Who's going to cover him then? Mine will come back. Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, I'm here mainly to talk about student housing and the need for student housing at Penn State Altoona. I've been on the board now for like 25 years, and I've watched the growth of the Penn State Altoona over the years, like many of you probably have. I'd like to just, maybe if I can, take just a couple minutes to talk about the history of Penn State Altoona. Actually, Penn State Altoona was started in 1929. They had 15 students. They were railroad workers, and they used to go to the public high school to have their classes. And then in 1939, they had $5,000 donated by the community. And going through here, I'd say the community and the community leaders have been in partnership with Penn State Altoona to make it a better campus and a very outstanding university, and it's keeps growing all the time. And I know now, we started out with 15, now we're up to about 4,000 students. And we could take a lot more students if we had the housing, because they can't accept them if they don't have some place to stay. And I think if you look at it, it's been a real growth to the area. The studies that we have show that it generates about $41 million into the area. And I'm just thinking if we had, you know, a 10% increase in students, it would generate another something like $4 million into the area. Each student coming here and residing here. And when you look around, you know, Altoona, you wonder where the growth is going to come from the city here. And, you know, the railroad at one time, the hospital, but I think we can definitely see some growth at Penn State Altoona, and I think if you would look around and look at State College or Indiana, Pennsylvania, and you look at some of these areas that they keep growing because of the students and because of the connection with the university. And one thing I would like to say is, and I was just talking to my brother Tom today about these kids that come in here. Every one of them, they belong to they do a lot of volunteer work for the city, and I know for the area. I know my brother Tom said he's had 4 or 5 kids come over and help with the mentally challenged kids that they tutor over at St. Mary's School every week. And they get the volunteers from, you know, different students volunteering. Gloria Gates Foundation, they 20 or 25 people come in to help the Gloria Gates Foundation as tutors and help the kids in the area. And Blair County Prison, they have a group that goes out to the prison. Now that's my brother Tom just telling me. I could have gotten those facts from Lori up at Penn State Altoona, but I didn't have enough time, and you guys certainly don't have enough time to listen to all that. But I think if you really want to do a study, I think the good overrules, you know, a lot of the things, the problems you see with Penn State students. You always hear the bad news, you know, somebody had too much to drink or, you know, is carrying on or something. But I think if we open up the housing, we're to see the university grow there, and also the number of these kids that are really helping the community have helped us out a lot. So I think it'd be important for the supervisors to allow some more housing or some projects coming. And Lori said that the university is not going to put any more housing on campus, at least the next 5 or 10 years. We don't see that happening. And they could probably use more here, but you know, Penn State has its own issues right now. So, but I'm saying, as a board of supervisors, collectively, I think you could really help out the growth of our area. And I think it'd be an economic boom to our area to build more housing, to get these kids in here and let them do whatever they do in the community, but also is bringing tax dollars into the community. And what I'm thinking about is, if you look at it, I think, you know, right now we just started I think Tom Smith will talk about a little bit, the downtown area, how that has grown. You know, I know like the Sheets Corporation, some other people, they now have a downtown campus of Altoona that's growing, and then we have the Ivyside campus. So if you look, like I go off my notes because I start to talk, but they started out in 1939 over at, and Joe Metzger, you probably remember, is over at the Webster School building down by the old Altoona Y. They got $5,000 and renovated the Webster School, and that was, they had 119 students at that time. In fact, Tom Smith's dad, Bob Smith, was the first business manager for Penn State Altoona at that time. So I'm sure Tom, growing up, has witnessed a lot of this growth of the area, or growth at Penn State Altoona. In 1947, the community raised about $50,000 to buy Ivyside Amusement Park, which was then an amusement park with, and that's how I got Bathhouse U. They converted the bathhouse into classrooms. So the community raised $50,000 and they moved their facilities up there. And then it grew. The first residence hall was in 1960s. They raised $1.25 million. And then since that time, presently we have 167 acres of ground up there, and there's about 33 buildings on campus. I think there's correct me, Speedy, I think there's four dorms. Four dorms, and the rest of it is mainly classroom buildings. So, you know, the advisory board goes out and raises a lot of money trying to, you know, build Penn State Altoona, and frankly, I mean, there's a lot of money been donated to help. I mean, they bought some of the properties downtown. So I think the best opportunity, I mean, I don't know we can say, you know, the type of housing, but I know, so I'm not here to say we're supporting any one developer or anything like that, but I just know I've met with the Durbins up there who have some property that's really closely aligned to Penn State Altoona, and I had the occasion to walk through one of their modular properties the other day, and I mean, when I went to school, you know, you had 2 beds in a room, you know, and I remember I started at Penn State main campus, and the facilities then aren't what they are like today. I mean, they go there, it's almost, you know, like a country club for a lot of these kids, and it attracts students to have, you know, good facilities out there. And I'm just saying, I think you guys authorized them to have an addition on, what's the name of the park up there? The Pennview. And they have like 55 units going in there, modular units, but they have a kitchen, they have their family room, they really have, you know, a nice facility. And I think they have some people that would be interested in adding on to Pennview. I know the zone now that they can't do that, but it's sort of an isolated area, but it's also very close to the university, which is probably one of the more convenient spots for development. And I think they do a quality job. So I mean, and I don't know. I know the neighbors here get upset about, you know, more students coming into the area, and I know they have their arguments about, you know, whether you should open this up for because of the problems the students have. But I think you got to look at the positives that the students bring to this community, and also an economic boom to our area to help out. I mean, right now there are, and this is all transpired over the years, but there's like 22 4-year degrees, and they're just going to start the railroad engineering program downtown. At least it's on schedule to start this year. So we've been developing the downtown area to some extent. And I think there's a lot more that could be done up on the Ivyside campus. With your help, I don't know what procedures you have to go through to help you know, develop that area. But I think, from what I know on you know, the housing that the Durbins had up there, they have their own security guard, and they watch the people pretty closely. And if anybody gets out of hand, I mean, they turn it over. I'm sure they work closely with the police departments up there. So I think what you got to do is weigh the good versus the bad. But I think there's so much good that comes out, and I think it would be great for our area to increase the development there. I had a lot more notes here, but I kind of skipped over and ad-libbed, so I'll let you go with that. But I'll let Tom Smith take a few minutes of his time. I appreciate your time, and I hope we get your support for developing Penn State Altoona further.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Good job, Mike. Not too much left to talk about, but good evening, gentlemen. Tom Smith. I literally grew up with Penn State Altoona. As Mike said, my dad was one of the founding fathers in 1939, and I wasn't around just then, but in 49, since then, I've watched the campus evolve from, again, Bathhouse U with a couple of bowling alley and a roller skating rink that they converted into different facilities for campus usage, into what it is today. It's a very modern, progressive, beautiful campus with roughly 4,100 students. Mike's family, the Kazmeyers, the Sheets, our family made in the last several years, you probably have seen TV, newspapers, some major gifts. We are committed to Penn State Altoona. We are deeply involved, and we'd like to see it continue to grow. For some reason, University Park has chosen not to build on-campus housing. The 4 dorms that are there now are very beautiful. Think oak, spruce, maple, and cedar, but we need more housing, pure and simple. And again, our gifts, as well as the community, years and years ago in the 50s, I went around with my parents as a little guy, locking on doors. We collected nickels, dimes, and quarters to build the Smith building. No relation to T. Raymond Smith, no relation whatsoever, but people were very generous, and they came up with quite a bit of community money to help fund a $946,000 Smith building, which was the main classroom building until about 5-7 years ago when the Hawthorne building was built. So the community has been involved and is still involved, and again, we're deeply committed to Penn State and its growth. Penn State Altoona, of course, contributes in many ways. Mike alluded to return, some of the private housing, of course, rent money, businesses, mom and dad's and so forth, do very well because of campus kids. The units that could be built off campus would be safe, modern. As Mike said, I guess there could be a security office involved. I think some of the private housing, I'm guessing, works out pretty well in basements and third floors and what have you, but some of them might be a little bit shaky. If I were a parent, I'd like to have my son or daughter in a modern, in this case brand new facility with first-class safety. Something that's controlled, security, well-lit, locks, and so forth. So that's where I stand on that. I have an older house on Fairview Avenue. There are 2 sets of campus kids who live 2 doors to my right and 3 doors to my left. Both have girls. I've not had, and so far I don't think I will have any problem with those kids whatsoever. They're well behaved. There was one party a few years ago, but my neighbor called the girl's father. That was taken care of, and things were rectified very quickly. But from my limited experience on Fairview Avenue, no problem whatsoever. That's pretty much it. We're just asking you folks to consider some more off-campus housing. Penn State Altoona receives 11,000 applications each year, and it is very popular. Mike Gagliano mentioned that it is the most popular campus next to University Park. Obvious reasons, are only 45 miles/minutes away. But we're very involved in the campus. We believe in the campus. Actually, they'd like to be referred to as a college, which it is, 4-year college. And we would appreciate any help you guys, you gentlemen, can afford us in our goal of trying to develop some more off-campus housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Any questions by the board for either Mike or Tom?
I have one, but I will need Supervisor Fontana's input on this because I can't exactly recall how we did this or how we proposed it, but the tract of land that Penn State University purchased was the old Fisher Farm. Okay. But first I'll say you are right. Penn State is an asset to the area and is a jewel of the community. Nobody in this board will disagree with that. Nobody in the community. But I think years ago, I think Supervisor Frontina proposed a proposal for Penn State Altoona to take part of that Fisher tract farm and to lease it to private enterprise, whoever it might be, whoever they could strike a deal with. and that's right next to Nittany Point, I believe. Am I accurate on that?
Yes.
And we agreed that, hey, that sounds like a great idea, and then the students would be on Penn State property, but that property would be leased to whatever individual. Let me finish, please.
Okay.
And at the same time, that way, the traffic flow from the students going to school would all be coming from Nittany Point in that area down to the school, which would make more sense to me. And they just won't own it; they'd be leasing it to Penn State. And right now, we're looking at different areas that we've been approached to on what our commitment would be, but the areas that are in question have been zoned residential. So we're trying to take residential property, convert it into student housing, which is not, appealing to us, nor the township residents, and that's who we're responsible to. But at the same time, to help with your cause, a simple solution would be to lease that ground that you currently own to a private developer, and to me, it's pretty much problem solved, or on its way. And you said yourself that Penn State, because of other issues they have, for the next 5 or 10 years, they don't have any plans to develop anything here in Altoona.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I think there's some legal ramifications by leasing it to a private developer or something that Penn State has some problems doing that. I think there's some other people suggested a public-private partnership up there and have them do something together. And I know there are investors that would like to do that, but I don't know, Penn State, for some reason legally, they don't want to, I guess they have maybe some liability on the other end that they can't do that. So, I mean, I don't think there's any, they want to get into a public, I mean, I know if that would change, I would certainly call somebody here and let you know that, or we could maybe research that to find out for sure. But I know in talking about the housing before that there was an issue on, what the kind of liability that Penn State University has when they go out with another private developer type situation.
Well,
I don't think they're allowed to do it, is what I'm saying, Jim.
But it'd sort of be like the same thing. There's different corporations, different businesses in the area. I'm not going to pinpoint any of them, but they actually don't own ground. They lease all the ground off that person who they put the building on. And it'd be almost the same thing, like you said. But that's up to the attorneys to figure out. I'm not an attorney either. And like I said, I don't know of any legal things, and
if you look at all the, like, if you go down to State College and look around, I mean, probably half the students are off campus and half are on campus. So that's probably a pretty good ratio. I mean, I'm just thinking, like, for every 400 students generating another $4 million in the economy, paying school district taxes, there's certain benefits to that. And I think the biggest problem when you get, some people that are against the students for some reason. I mean, I think you got to look at the 99% of them are good kids, and you're going to lose one here and there, maybe cause a problem. But I think the area would develop a lot more. I mean, and it's an attractive campus. I mean, I think you guys have been up there, and they just remodeled. They put a lot of money into the area, remodeling. They just did the whole Skyport development. You can go up there and eat lunch if you want to. They have tennis courts that the community uses. They got another recreation. I mean, a lot of opportunities. A lot of people, you go up there, they have, Division III sports up there. So I think it's a real asset to our community, and I think we should support them as much as we can. And I think Lori would say that we're not allowed that, and we could look into the partnership, but I don't think you're going to get that.
Right. And here's something else too, and it's been brought up before. The people moved out of Mercy Hospital, converge with Altoona to get one hospital, and I'm not going to say the city of Altoona needs help, but it definitely give a boost to the city of Altoona for taxes and income. If something could be utilized, like an older building, into that area where the old Mercy Hospital was, because that's already set up with rooms, corridors, bathrooms. I mean, there's a plus there too. But there's other possibilities out there, and I'm just looking at exploring all of them. And the only thing I'm trying to do here today is to make them public for you to know. Maybe nobody thought of it before, but it's definitely something you can look at.
Well, I mean, I think we should explore all the avenues we can. I mean, but I just know that the immediate thing with Penn State out there, they're not going to do anything. The logistics even of the busing downtown and, out to Mercy Hospital, I'm not sure, how all that works. I mean, I guess I look at it as a piece of ground right there that's within walking distance. It could be, I mean, it's pretty secluded. I don't think there's that many residents. And if anything, I think sometimes because of development, it might increase the value of some of those properties. I don't know.
And you hit on something else too, busing. You know, because Amtran's always up for funding and everything, that extra student population for busing from the old Mercy Hospital to the campus could actually help Amtran out. So, you know, it's a plus win-win for everybody.
My question, Mike, would be, if this is the first popular campus other than the main campus, why isn't Penn State University willing to invest in dorms on the campus where they have the room?
Well, that's a good question. They have their priorities and
well, that's what I'm saying. Why wouldn't they make this a priority?
We don't really know, but I think what.
I know you can't answer that. That's just sort of one of those questions out there.
no, I mean, I think it's a legitimate question, and I probably agree with you, but Penn State's not doing it. We're not on the priority list for some reason. I mean, I'm not sure who's running the show down there half the time, but I mean, I think they could do something there, but they haven't done that.
I mean,
we're not on their schedule. I mean, it's
Jim's suggestion via through ed is legitimate, I believe. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. If the attorneys can get together and make it happen.
When it comes to University Park, one guess might be that some of the campuses around the state are struggling. They might be trying to infuse some money in there to get them developed, to build them up a little bit. Altoona is successful, very successful. And I think
Altoona and the community has done things in the past, so they sort of take us for granted, maybe. I don't know.
And here in Logan Township, we have always supported Penn State Altoona, and we've always supported Urbans, and we will not just, you know, they do a great job up there, monitoring the buildings that there's no complaints there. But like I said, you know, it's just that there's an issue now with residential housing. So, let's keep exploring possibilities.
Well, we're available to work with you either with Lori and Tom and I or whoever. I mean, we'd be glad to sit down and try to, if there's some details that need to be worked out or something, we'd be glad to work with you. I mean, because I think it's important for our area and going down the road.
Okay. This is the time for public comment, so anybody wishing to address the board? No, we know your name, Kay. Just state your name and address.
Kay Winkler. We're talking about enrollment. Just a few figures off of their website, and they're probably sick that they have to publish this. Back in 1999, at the Altoona campus, there were 3,869 students. Guess how many there are today, 13 years later? 3,863. They're down 6 students in 13 years. So I want to know where this increase is that they need all this housing for. Why are we ruining beautiful residential areas for 400 or 500 college students? I left a few little articles on your desks. William and Mary College in Virginia is now developing the old comfort suites, Holiday Inns, these motels that have been closed down that are no longer options for that type of business, and they are being bought by the colleges and turned into student housing. There's parking already available. Most of them have indoor pools, recreation areas, and the bus runs right past the Holiday Inn over here on Pleasant Valley Boulevard.
What's the proximity of these places to the actual?
I think it tells you in there, but I don't remember. But regardless, we do have bus transportation within the city that handles that. And I think that was the only comments that I needed to make at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
If I could make one more comment. I just had the 2009 and 10 packs. There were 3924, and then I think 2011 we took in around 1,400 students. It went up to about 4,200. Now, there are the demand, like Tom said, we get 11,000 applicants to come to Penn State Altoona, and they can only take something like 1,400. So, I mean, if we had the housing, we could take more, I mean, is what I'm saying. So, if the enrollment's going down, it's because the students aren't finding the housing. I know they go up there and they look around to try to find housing, and they end up in, you know, I don't know where they end up, but I mean, I think it's a critical issue.
17 of 19 campuses of Penn State University have down enrollment this year. In Altoona, we lost 242 students this year alone. In the last 3 years, we lost 319. On an average, that's 100 students a year. I made just a little survey of the area, just in the close proximity of the campus today, and found 10 homes, 10 empty student homes.
10 places, there would be more students in each one.
Empty.
And that's
There's a-
right.
There's a building right across the road from the new Durbin's, 11 units, empty.
Any other public comment? Sir.
I would like to, but if you're
My name is Kerry Weathersby, and I actually rent to students. I'm a landlord. And this year, I was only able to fill about 50% of my quota due to the lack of phone calls. I mean, I'm also a member of the Landlord Association. Bill Kidd is our president, and he asked me to come tonight and let everyone know that we're concerned about the lack of students. Typical years, my phone would ring off the hook. I would have my places filled early June. I'd have to turn students away or try to help them find something else. This year, absolutely nothing. I was lucky to get what I got. And we don't see it. We don't see what they're talking about as far as there being a need for so much more housing. We're wondering why we're not getting calls. Part of the theory that we have is that maybe there are some houses in the city of Altoona near the campus area that are actually taking students in that should not be taking students in, that are not registered student housing. When you have a registered student house, according to the ordinance that the city of Altoona implemented a couple years back, you have to be licensed, you have to be inspected, you now have to be a certain distance from other student houses, you have to have the square footage, you have to have off-street parking. We have that, and we're not filling up. At least I know of at least a half a dozen landlords that would get up here tonight and tell you the same thing. So I don't know where this is all coming from or why it's coming at this point, but we certainly agree with some of the stats that this lady presented here. It's either that or the Sandusky scandal had an immense impact on this year, and students that were enrolled in the Altoona campus, we understand a lot of those were referred down to the main campus. Years past, they weren't able to get into the main campus, so they would come up here, do a year or 2 years, and then transfer down. So I think the enrollment situation at the Altoona campus, and one other thing I'll mention, the fact that we're not modern maybe, but because we are licensed, we're respected, the landlords that are approved housing, we're on a website, we monitor, we have a situation where we go and we check our houses. We get in as much trouble if the students cause trouble as they do. And first thing I know I tell my students is that this is a community and you have to act responsible. I don't have problems at my properties. I'm not saying that there aren't occasions where there are some problems, but these are young students, kids, actually young adults that come in at 18 years of age, first time away from their parents, and you're going to have that no matter what. But it does take you being in control, everything from telling them when they have to put the trash out, reminding them to put the trash out, turn the heat down, those kind of things. I don't know that if you put a lot of students under one area or in one area, it's not more of a problem, to be honest with you. Because the more students that are together, the bigger the party. So that's all I have to say.
Reynolds. Thank you.
Reynolds Baldwin, I live in Gwynn Road. The reason that the houses that are spread out in the community are not filled is because the students don't want to live in those kind of facilities anymore. The Durbins had a waiting list this September. The new housing they just built that'll be online actually it'll be online in January. They have students transferring in there from other places for the January semester. And then in the fall, they have a waiting list for the new housing. And that's exactly the point we're trying to make. That students no longer want to live in housing dispersed about the community. And that's not good for the community. I understand what the residents are saying. And when you have student housing next door to you, sometimes it can be a problem. But if we create these village atmosphere, which is what the Durbins have created, that's exactly the atmosphere the students want. And my understanding is that when the students are together, they can be controlled. There's security, the police know where it is, it's open, it's well lighted. The other thing is the safety factor. These new units are sprinkling systems. They're made of modern technology that does not burn quickly, and they're safe, and that's what the students want. And this is what the demand is. I understand the enrollment's down this year, and that partially because of the Sandusky scandal, and Penn State University at the main campus drew from all the other campuses about, I don't know, I heard it was 1,300 or 1,400, 1,500 students, and they took over about 200 here from Penn State Altoona. And that's not going to be the case. They're going to grow. This engineering program that that Mike spoke about, that's the only program in the whole United States. They already have 80-some students applied for this program. This is becoming a major university. The engineering program is kids can come here, get a Penn State education for much less of the cost than they can going to University Park, and that's what's happening. So that the idea that the student enrollment down, the Durbins wouldn't make this investment if we didn't know it worked. Converting the Mercy Hospital to student housing, it's economically impossible because it's not what kids want. It's too far away and it's too expensive. That's not happening. But here you have 26 acres within walking distance of the university. There's already 300 students living there. It's not like we're going into an area that's already that doesn't have any student housing. And the fact of the matter is, there's not the demand here for residential real estate. And residential real estate actually will cause more traffic than with student housing. The student housing, it's intermittent. They can't drive to school during the day because they're too close to the university. An average house has 5 trips a day in and out of the development. 5 trips a day. Their students aren't. First of all, only about 2/3 of them have cars. So and we can produce traffic counts to show you that. But the point is that the village atmosphere, in a place where it ought to be, and developed in a way it ought to be developed in a modern way. If you look at what's going on at Penn State and other universities, this is what's happening. And the university can grow. They want to grow when they have the housing. And as Durbins grow here, other houses that are spread out throughout the community are going to be without students, and rightfully so. You shouldn't have students spread out throughout the community. They need to be where they belong, near the university, in appropriate housing.
Thank you, Reynolds. I
have
know.
2 comments on that. They're talking about how main campus is pulling from the other colleges, and that's why you're seeing 17 of the 19 college enrollments down. Last year, main campus Penn State had 45,000, approximately 200 children. This year, they had 45,351. That's an increase of 150. Now, you didn't pull 1,700 kids.
Well, and I just
There are 11,000 applicants.
It doesn't matter how many applicants.
well, I'll just make one comment. Having been a board member, supervisor for 17 years here in January, the most contentious issues that any board I have been on has faced have been zoning issues. And I think one of the things we have to be cautious as supervisors is to not do market analyses because we're not qualified. I know when we were looking at rezoning issues for commercial development, we got hammered by people saying you have enough grocery stores, you have enough restaurants. And that really is not what we do here, because we don't have that kind of expertise. And I think if an investor is willing to spend the money to build a business, they've done that analysis. So, that's not our job. But it is our job to determine whether, or the impact of this rezoning has on the community. In a whole lot of ways. The economic impact, the impact on the residents, many issues. And I think this one with the student housing is one of those contentious issues where we have a developer who, or maybe even there's more developers, who see a need for this kind of housing and this kind of investment, and then we have residents very much opposed. I don't know, it's probably one of those divisive issues that the two groups will never come together and agree. And the board is just going to have to make a decision. Will we agree to rezone the issue, or will we let this remain as residential? And I think, like I say, it's a contentious issue, and I know personally sitting here, I don't feel it's really my responsibility to determine whether or not there's a need for this, because I'm not making the investment. But I do think there's a need. Our job is really to look at the zoning issue and whether or not that's consistent with our zoning we have in that area. And like I say, there's a whole lot of issues for rezoning, and of course one of them is for the economic good of the area. So that will have to be considered. But I don't know if anybody else wants to make public comment. You're certainly welcome, but I'll tell you right now, maybe the other board members are influenced by numbers. I'm not.
Hi, my name is Naomi Thomas. I am a member of the Township Residents Against Student Housing, and we have been through this discussion so many times, but I just want to ask a couple questions, and one of them is, I keep wondering why, first, I think we all wonder why, if this is such an important campus, why Penn State University does not want to supply the housing. I also wonder why all these people that are here and demand that we need student housing, why aren't they down there at the Penn State University meetings with the trustees and the president and telling them that this campus needs on-campus housing instead of trying to put that burden on the residents of the community? And, it's not just a matter of the fact that the students cause trouble. I actually can say that this year, that the trouble that has been caused by the students has seemed to be much better than last year. The other problems are the traffic in this area, the students walking on the roads that don't have any sidewalks. Now, I just noticed that in Wynwood, where there is no sidewalk, they just painted a white line down one of the roads that I think is supposed to be a sidewalk. However, since they painted the white line down the road to allow for sidewalk space, two cars can't hardly pass on what was left for the street. So I don't understand why all this stuff can be taken care of, and yet Penn State does not want bothered with building student housing for their students. And that is not the community's responsibility, that's Penn State's responsibility. And we as community members support Penn State. We know Penn State brings plenty of economic growth here. However, the students are going to bring economic growth here, whether they live on the campus or whether they live off the campus. And the residents in that area, and of course, a lot of them come up to me about it, they all feel, not only from the township, but also from the city, Wynwood and, that area, Fairview, that there is enough contention in the community from the students that they are all glad when the month of May comes and sad when the month of September comes, because it causes so much more congestion in the community. So if we're going to add more housing, then it's going to be even more. And I do think what Jim brought up about having, the buildings for the students up there right above the campus, that would be in the campus area. So it would not involve the community and the local community right there by the campus. So I think that this fight for student housing, if that's actually what it's about, should be taken down to the Penn State main campus, to the officials down there. And we as residents are really thinking about doing that because this has become such a community problem. And I think that the community, for our supervisors, I feel you should not be putting this pressure on them. Their responsibility is to take care of the residents. And the $41 million of economy has nothing to do with where the students live. It is the student housing project that wants to be increased in our local neighborhood that is the problem that the people in the neighborhood do not want. So, thank you.
I understand the residents' points. However, as supervisors, you're to look out for the economic growth of the entire township. The development that the Durbins are proposing on these 26 acres will pay about $30,000 a year in school taxes, about $8,000 a year in county taxes, and I think it's around $4,000 in township taxes. So what these residents are saying is that the rest of the township and the school district, the rest of the school district, should pay higher taxes so they're not inconvenienced where the university already is. When they all moved here, they knew the university was here, they knew the students were living around here, and they thought it would never expand. It's just not realistic. But your job as supervisors is to take all the residents of Logan Township and all of the economics of Logan Township in consideration, not just 40 houses that live around the university.
Because the township wouldn't receive any revenue if the university builds the housing, and I know the costs are a lot higher when the university does it. When a private developer wants to put this money into this project, and they're going to pay taxes and help build the area. In other words, you're not getting any benefit if Penn State Altoona builds another dorm on campus. I mean, at least this way you are getting revenue coming in from the businesses renting the properties and developing the properties and adding the other benefits.
And if the university wanted this property, which they don't, and they wanted to put housing on it, which they don't, if they purchased it, they could put housing for 1,500 students on the 26 acres by doing high rises.
But you understand, purchasing the property wouldn't change the zoning. It doesn't
Well, the university had it.
But it doesn't change it automatically.
No, I know.
You still have to do the same process.
I know. I'm just making a point.
I'm just making sure we understand.
Okay. Any other public comment? Charles?
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Charles Weisberger, and I live at 129 Boone Road. And just to reiterate a few things, which was videoed a while back, Chancellor Leary stood here, and there were statements made that they want to increase the student housing. But Chancellor Weary came here and put a big presentation on and showed all the development that was going to go on the campus, on campus property. And said that at this time, the infrastructure cannot handle any more than what they've already had. So where is this rush for, if we put these student housing in, we're going to put in another 10,000 students at the campus. The infrastructure's not there to handle. And she also made a statement, just as a reminder, made a statement, she doesn't want the kids off campus. She wants them on campus. That's where they belong. You know, if there's issues with off-student housing, there's a code enforcement officer. All they have to do is report that. That can be reported, and you know, because they are, as this gentleman said, he's required to meet criteria in order to rent those houses out. And again, 300 students in one area, which that's what he had said. That's enough in that area. We don't need another 350 on top of that. There's no sidewalks there. There's no lighting there. The infrastructure's not there. You know, and sure, I would like to have a new house to, you know, whenever I grew up, you know, if you went to campus, if you had student housing, like you said, it was basements or attics or what. Everybody liked to have a brand new home to live in. It's not reality. That's not the way it is. And these people that are throughout the city and throughout the township that invested monies and certified to rent out to student housing, they invested a lot of money in their to put this forward. And what it comes down to is these people are going to lose out. He's already said that he's not filling the houses that he already has. And there's plenty around Penn State itself right now that there's no students in. And as far as the Logan Township, with this property of 26 acres, would get $4,000 in taxes. We would probably spend 3 times that with our police force to send them out there to police that. Not necessarily to go make arrests or whatever, but they're going to have to police it. $4,000 generated to the state of the township. And what would it, if it was single-family dwellings, how much would the taxes generate? I mean, you know, I pay property tax, and it's $1,500 a year. I don't know what the cut is for the township, but you know, that's just 40 residents in the area here that we're talking about. So with that, I thank you for your time, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Hearing none, let's move on to the business meeting first.
And I just want to know, do you have any zoning requests submitted for the road property?
No.
We're getting a lot of preliminary information.
I haven't seen one come across.
I don't think we ever had.
I think there was a meeting we had where there was an interest in whether or not we thought we should send the plan onto the Planning Commission. And it was a consensus type thing. It was never a formal vote on a zoning change.
There's never been a formal request.
I think there has been a formal request. It's on hold. At the end of the meeting, we told the developer that, look, you know, you can request the board to publish an ordinance, you go through a hearing, but you're hearing the consensus that it's not going to do you any good. And so it's been held in abeyance since.
You said that was at the meeting like 3 years ago.
You must have missed it. Yeah.
And you were talking with them.
About 3 years? You guys are just as long as that.
I wanted to comment on Penn State. About a year ago, they were here, said they were going to increase Christie and Northland, and they said it was going to be like over maybe Kay can confirm this, like over a 5-year period, and they weren't going to rush into it, and they didn't want to do it all at once, and it's going to be 100 this year, 300 the next year. We never see those figures of when they're going out, or how much they've done it. You see these projections, and then you don't see what, how they're keeping up with the projections that they propose. And I just thought it was an interesting subject. I saw some of the...
There's a copy of their enrollments.
I wondered, how they were working at as to what they said they were going to do.
That's the same thing. She just copied all the rest of it down there at the bottom, that one, that bottom part.
It was just a curiosity.
Okay, any other citizen comments?
Yes, I'd like to make one more comment. My train of thought. The comment was made about these students don't want to live in, run-down houses. I guess is what their rooms and sheets and doors are considering everybody else's house. They're just, just fabulous and everybody else is just below scale. I remember my parents, like, oh, you want a Corvette? Sure, we'll get you a Corvette. No, you went and bought your own car. You live where the places are available. What says that these children are so privileged that they need to live in something so fancy? Just to keep that in mind. There are, like, the homeowner association man is here tonight. And said,
house and gang here. My
No,
house.
I just don't think that point has anything to do with the residents of the community having to give up residential zoning to accommodate students from Penn State University. I mean, that is not the community's obligation. And if it weren't something that is so disruptive to the community, it would be different. But I know that everybody in the community supports everything that Penn State does because they do appreciate Penn State. But when they say, like, making it larger, it'll, add to the economics of the township and the city, well, of course it would, but then you have to also weigh the other side of the scale, like, okay, how much is it going to interfere with the community life of the citizens, And these kids that come here, even if they live on campus, if they live spread out through the community, which to me is probably even better than having them all in one place.
Yeah, 301 area.
They're still going to go to the local stores and buy their food. They're going to buy gas at the gas stations. They're going to go to the shopping centers and spend their money. I mean, besides that, what is the economic effect of the students? Not the whole university even, just the students. I mean, is there any other course of...
You would have to ask them.
Yeah, we wouldn't know that. Who knows? But we get hit with a lot of numbers, and it's really something that I don't think we even need to consider. I mean, if somebody wants to say they want to invest money to do something, it must be assumed they've done some kind of analysis to determine the need. And if we start saying, like, you don't need more stores or you don't need more this, one of the little things about supervisors is you can't be arbitrary or capricious. Somebody could say, well, you're saying that because it benefits you or your relative or somebody, so we have to really base it on what information we hear and determine whether or not it meets our township requirements under the township code.
So Frank, are you saying that the developer comes in and says, we'd like to build 40 units there and put, 500 kids in there? You're going to say, well, okay, that sounds like a good idea.
No, I'm going to say you want to invest that money when everybody's saying there's not a need. You must have determined there's a need. Our job isn't to determine whether or not it's a valid need. Our job is to determine if it's a valid request to change that zoning.
So when I provide you with these figures that the ordinance agrees that, there's 10 houses that we just saw around campus that are empty, that's...
Well, it should be more information for the developer, but we can't use that to make our decision. Okay? Because let's say I'll give you a perfect example.
So you can't use their information either?
We shouldn't be using that. They're trying to, I think their argument, I'm not going to make their argument for them, but they give us that information. And we've had information about campus growth, to try to establish need, but we're not making the investment. We're being asked to change zoning. Okay, and a perfect example is Logan Town Center. When it was being built, Jim and I were on the board. We had meeting after meeting where we had people coming in here telling us we don't need more retail stores. And all it's going to provide are minimum wage jobs. Okay, that's not our job. And we also heard, well, that's going to hurt the Logan Valley Mall. That's not our job.
We want 3 more steakhouses.
Right, that's not our job. Or more, it's not our job to determine whether or not there's a need or if there'll be profit.
Whether rezoning is necessary.
Under the law, the township's decision to rezone an area is purely legislative. So long as they don't violate the Constitution, such as spot zoning, something like that, it's up to this board to determine what's best for the township. Courts are loath to get involved in it. Courts don't like to do that.
Right.
So that's a legislative issue, purely legislative. If the board likes that idea, they can say fine. If they don't like it, they can say fine.
And it has to be consistent with the zoning that's there, so it's not spot zoning. I know the old rule of thumb, we were to look at the present and future best uses for the land.
That's your job.
That's our job. But we do get a lot of information. Okay? And then we go from there. Then it's also our job to see that the building is constructed according to codes. That's our job.
Well, some of the statements that were made by Mr. Smith and Mr. Irwin were very contradictory as to what Chancellor Weary, in her presentation, had put on here a year ago in regard to expanding. She wants the kids on campus. They proposed a 5-year, 7-year plan. They were going to put more student housing and so forth on campus. They don't have the infrastructure to handle, they don't have classrooms and stuff to handle any more students as it stands now.
I just don't understand, if it's something that Penn State needs, as a campus of the Penn State University, shouldn't they be going to the Penn State University instead of...
You're asking the wrong people.
And even if you go to their trustee meeting, I don't know how much chance you have for public comment.
But if you actually positively have to have it, and you're insisting upon it, they have the ground to do something with it, like Ed proposed there, you can lease it to those people.
Why are you coming over here? As far as I'm concerned, this is not to benefit Penn State Alpena campus. This is to benefit contractors and landlords that want to make money. And they want to do it at the expense of residents.
Well, now you can even hear now with the people that have these private houses throughout, now they're complaining that
they're against this.
Well, and once again, you know, not our job. I think maybe those complaints would be best heard by Penn State.
In other words, we should go to Penn State for the campus or Penn State down?
Well, it's the local campus that's promoting, obviously.
Obviously.
But here's the thing also. If you have a ground, the east part of the road, your cost of rent might be higher than somebody has a 20-year-old apartment building. And some of these 20-year-old apartment buildings are 50 or 100-year-old houses these people are renting out to college kids. Maybe that's all that family or that student can afford. And I don't know what the costs are. Like, it's not our job to regulate the cost of what student housing is going to be. But just use a dollar figure. Over here, we have a $500 figure for a brand new building. This one over here, we've been renting for 20 years. That only would be $300. And those families maybe can only afford that $300 bill to send their students to college. And at the same time, the way the economy looks and how it may turn out, we don't know if there's going to be that many students going to college. So everything affects the economy, and I don't have a crystal ball.
And being at Pitt and Penn State, in-state tuitions are the two most expensive in the country.
Right, which probably accounts for the 300-some student loss more so than.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Right.
Hey, Frank, I think Joe has one more comment for the end of the thing, and I'd like to
I don't have really comment. The next meeting is really next meeting because it's Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
That was my attachment.
Okay, thank you. We need a motion for adjournment.
I will make that motion.
Okay. Thank you.